Welcome back to Wild Drama Stories, where you get all the drama from a safe distance. Let's get started with story number 1. Opie writes, My boyfriend invited me to a party yesterday in his hometown with a bunch of his lifelong friends from high school. He was saying he wanted his friends to like me and that I should, quote, get out of my shell, unquote, some and get to know people. I do tend to be reserved around new people, but I was willing to try being more extroverted. Well, we got to the party and first we hung out with his 2 best male friends and their wives. Both couples had kids and one of the ladies was pregnant. They were talking about their kids and asked me about if I wanted to be a boy mom or a girl mom. I kind of laughed at the question and was like, quote, oh, neither, unless things go in the government-mandated baby direction, unquote. His friend was confused and didn't get the joke, so I awkwardly explained it was a joke about losing my reproductive rights. So after that, one of his friends asked what I'd recommend seeing on a road trip, because he was planning one to the same state I just came back from. The first things that popped into my head to say were, 1. A campground that was nearly empty, super chill about drinking and weed, and was only $6 a night on the lake. 2. A nude beach, which you don't actually have to get naked at. It's just a more chill spot to enjoy nature than the family beaches with people blasting crap music and not watching their kids. Most everyone just hangs with friends and is pretty much laid back. His friend was kind of non-committal, saying, quote, that sounds cool, unquote, or, quote, wow, you're brave to do that, unquote. And I didn't really catch that stuff was awkward until my boyfriend said that his friend was traveling with his wife and toddlers. I did feel silly for just listing my favorite spots without asking him what the vibe of the trip was. I talked to a bunch more people, but I think those were the things that upset my boyfriend the most. Anyway, I thought I did well at getting out of my shell and getting to know people, but when we got in the car afterwards, my boyfriend was angry. He asked me why I'd, quote, acted so immature, unquote, and embarrassed him. I asked him what he meant because I thought I was being fun and friendly and chill. But he said I talked several times about finding having a baby, quote, ick, unquote, and not wanting to be around kids. Talked about drinking heavily, talked about embarrassing crap I'd done with my friends drunk, etc. I said I was frustrated because he told me to, quote, just be myself, unquote. And when I really tried for him, now he says I'm immature. Like, I just turned 21. Maybe I'm not immature. Maybe I'm just out of place being the only one under 30. He got frustrated and wanted to talk again when I had sobered up. We haven't talked again yet. I'm trying to figure out if I should apologize or stand up for myself. Still, am I the a-hole for acting, quote, immature, unquote, at my boyfriend's party with his old friends? Well, Opie, no, I do not think you are immature. I think you're a 21-year-old, and as you said, you were surrounded by people over 30. I think we are all still immature at 21, more so than we really want to admit it ourselves at that age. But that doesn't mean that you are immature for your age. You're just your age. But anyway, let's see what other people have to say. Someone comments, me reading this sounds like a 20-year-old dating a 30-year-old. Me reading the last line. Oh. Opie, he was embarrassed by you because the things you're into at 21 are not the same vibe as people who are 30, no matter how mature and worldly people think you are. And his friends were judging for sure, but his embarrassment comes from them judging him, not you. You were perfectly polite and I'm sure pleasant, and a normal 21-year-old behaving like anyone their age expects a 21-year-old to behave. But you are very clearly in a different life stage to him and the rest of his friends. And unless he can get over his second-hand embarrassment over that and let you just be you, this relationship is done. To this, OP replies, Wait, that makes so much sense. Thinking of it as him being embarrassed instead of thinking of it as me embarrassing myself. Because, to be real, I'm 21. There's nothing embarrassing about being 21 when you're 21. I feel like maybe he's a little embarrassed he's dating someone who's open about not wanting kids, open about her politics, likes a party, etc. When his friends seem to be the type who wanted families, don't talk about politics, and don't drink much or use any other substances. So I'm starting to feel it isn't at all about me. It's about him feeling embarrassed he's not, quote, keeping up with the Joneses, unquote, and dating a girl who wants to be a homemaker and have a lot of kids and go to church like his friends. Someone else comments, I guarantee that the conversation they had after everyone left were not, quote, I can't believe how immature she is, / how much she likes drinking, / that she doesn't want kids, unquote. But were, quote, I can't believe he's dating a 21-year-old, / can he not keep someone his own age, / what a cradle snatcher, unquote. And he knows it. He has probably spent a lot of energy telling his friends how mature you are and how you're not like most 21-year-olds, and otherwise making excuses for your age gap. And now they have met you, they have discovered that you are, in fact, 21. There's nothing wrong with being 21. Enjoy being young and carefree for as long as you can, and shift this dead weight who wants you to be something else. Someone else comments, I'm not super smart. I'm just a 32-year-old woman who, when she was a 22-year-old woman, dated guys in their 30s. Been to that rodeo. Trust me, if you think you're dating older to avoid the immature moron 20-year-olds you know, you're just exposing yourself to the differently immature, equally moronic 30-year-olds. As long as you're having fun and not being dragged down, go for it. But don't stick with it if this guy is making you feel, quote, less than, unquote, because of your age. Someone else writes, Opie, he's embarrassed because he's creeping on a younger girl. Please run. Not the a-hole. You're a 21-year-old human with human needs, including the need to explore and experience life to develop into the person you're meant to be. You're not a 21-year-old shaped fembot designed to meet a man's every need as he needs it. Well, now let's get Opie's update. Update here. We had a serious talk and we broke up. So you all were right. He wasn't angry I was, quote, immature, unquote. He was wanting me to act like a 35-year-old in a 21-year-old's body. When we talked, I held my tongue a lot and asked a lot of questions like, quote, what was embarrassing here, unquote. Quote, what would you have been comfortable with me doing instead, unquote. Quote, what did you find embarrassing about my conversation with this other person, unquote. And, quote, how did you want me to act, unquote. And I just listened. And when I wasn't saying a lot in return, he really just talked openly about what he wanted. I think he thought I was listening and humbly taking constructive feedback or some crap, while I was really just trying to understand if I was compatible with who he wanted me to be. And it hurt a lot to hear, but he described wanting someone who just was not me. He wanted me to care more about my career than about, quote, partying, weed, and my besties, unquote. And I feel like that's just condescending. Like, I do care about my career, but on my time off, I want to have fun. And I don't think it's a flaw that my friends are important to me. He wanted someone religious, or at least familiar enough with living in those circles that I'd know not to make pro-life comments or reveal I am bisexual. He had said me being an atheist before was okay, and he'd respect our differences. But it turns out he always was hoping I'd be open to religion. And he had said he was accepting of my sexuality, but he apparently didn't catch the memo, you shouldn't put someone back in the closet. He wanted someone who, quote, respects themselves, unquote, enough to speak confidently about their achievements, instead of making self-deprecating jokes and telling embarrassing stories to make people laugh. And that's just not authentic to me. I think it's rude and snobby to brag on yourself. And I love to make people laugh, even if it's through telling a wild story. So, after all that, I told him that it sounded like he had a good idea who he was looking for, and it wasn't me. I told him about all the ways I'm different than the girl he just described, and that it was hurting me to say, but I didn't think a relationship between us could ever work out, since he wanted someone who was not me. I didn't think I'd be happy faking being some other girl, and I didn't think he would be happy so obviously wanting someone who wasn't me, but being in a relationship nothing like he wanted. Anyway, I'm still honestly freaking out that we broke up. It wasn't a super long relationship, but it was intense, and I'm second guessing whether I threw something amazing away. But it really cut me to the core, hearing all the ways he would want me to change. It felt like he wanted me to not be me anymore, especially when he wished I didn't let on that I'm bi. I've had trauma around being in the closet, being outed, complicated feelings about both. He knew about them and knew how much that hurt. And he still expected me to go back in the closet around his family. Well, Opie, I think you absolutely did the right thing for yourself. Even though it's going to hurt for a while and you're going to miss him a bit in the beginning, this was the right thing for you. Clearly, this is somebody that wants you to change completely, and you shouldn't do that. Nobody should change who they are for somebody else. I mean, it's one thing to make some compromises in a relationship. That is normal, but this is something different. This is somebody that wanted you to change who you are at your very core. But let's get some other comments, hear what people have to say about this before we go on to story number 2. Someone comments, "Good for you. You definitely did not throw away something amazing." It's easy for those of us with more experience to see it, because we had to live through it to learn these lessons too. It wasn't time wasted. Now you're smarter relationship-wise and have a better idea about the type of person who makes a good partner for you. Good job and good luck. You sound like you have a good, mature head on your shoulders. Someone else comments, "I'm so proud of you, OP. That's true maturity. Knowing when to end it because you want different people. You will find someone who loves you for you, and not for what they think they can force you into being. Stay strong. You'll get over the immediate hurt, and then you'll feel so much better." Let's get a final comment. Someone says, "He's probably pissed because the mommies were clutching their pearls that you were younger, free, wild, and not ashamed of it. Listen, you have plenty of time to settle down. Enjoy your life, your beauty, your youth, and your, quote, immaturity, unquote. Wear your short shorts, get your piercings and tattoos or whatever. Just enjoy being you. This guy fell for you for what you are and then wants you to change? F that noise. Moving on. Next." Story 2. Opie writes, "My girlfriend recently traveled to another city with a female friend. They went to a concert. At this concert, they randomly meet 2 guys in the crowd. One of these guys follows them home during the night. Everything is all right in my eyes. He sounds like a nice guy. But he then sleeps over at their hotel room because there is no longer any possibility for him to get home. I guess this is acceptable too. It's not safe at night. But then the next morning, they all 4 hang out all day, and the 2 guys drive them to the airport. She is now, as of currently, snapping with this dude about her dog, saying stuff like, quote, 'This is the dog I was talking about,' unquote. My stomach has had an uneasy feeling all day, ever since I realized this guy was sleeping over, which she did not tell me. I had to figure it out by watching Snapchat stories. There has been zero transparency from her side. She has not told me she added this guy on Snapchat. And she is talking a lot about him. Am I overthinking this situation? I have a gut feeling they may have hooked up. Well, OP, something sounds a bit off about this story. For me, it's the part about this guy following them back to the hotel, as if he wasn't invited, and yet they let him into the room. It doesn't sound quite right to me. It sounds like they invited him from the start. But anyway, let's get some comments from other people about this before we get OP's update. Someone comments, actions speak volumes. She doesn't respect what most would consider normal relationship boundaries. And she's joking with her new boyfriend at your expense. She doesn't respect you. Time to bounce. Someone else comments, they brought two guys they met at a concert back to their hotel room. Yeah, that would be enough for me to break up. Not only is it incredibly unlikely they spent the whole time talking about their hopes and dreams and being BFFs, but the fact they brought two men, strangers they know nothing about, back to their place is incredibly stupid. Then you have the fact she wouldn't have done that if you were there, right? But why if it was so innocent? Let's get one more comment before we get an update. Someone writes, dude, she brought a guy back to their hotel after the concert. He didn't follow her. She brought him. They stayed the night. They're talking continuously now. What do you mean you, quote, think, unquote, she's cheating? Quote, there's no longer any way for him to get home. I guess this is acceptable too. It's not safe at night, unquote. Bro, what? He's a grown-ass man. He can find a way home. He's not going to use being scared of the dark as an excuse to shack up with your girl for the night. Well, here's OP's update. Confronted her. She gaslighted me by saying, quote, I had no intentions of hooking up with this guy, unquote. Quote, I only viewed him as a friend, unquote. I told her she severely disrespected me and my boundaries. She then started crying. She deleted this guy from Snap. But this crap still doesn't sit right with me. I'm having second thoughts about the relationship. Been dating for 9 months. Well, OP, maybe there is more to the story and she's hiding that from you. Or maybe your girlfriend is just very naive and nothing actually happened, but this guy is hoping for more. And, well, it seems like she's spoken to him a whole lot already. But the bottom line is, if you stay with her, you really need to set some boundaries. Well, that's it for this installment of Wow Drama Stories. I thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy it, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload again. Until next time, wishing you a drama-free life.